It's been an honour, she said, and a privilege to accompany her on this journey.
Is opening at the back of the plane, and we'll leave you just to look at those pictures.
Colour Squadron. Change! Squadron. Royal salute. Present arms.
Their party stands still. Their party slow march. Their party stands still. Their party in wood, turn, prepare to lower, lower. Their party, 10 paces, in wood, march. Their party, 6 paces, woods, march. Their party, to feed. Feed. Their party, 8 paces, outward, march. Their party, inward, turn. Wide left, quick, march.
So the State hearse leaving Northolt Air Base. Police outriders, and behind in the cars following Princess Royal, Princess Anne, accompanied by her husband, Vice Admiral Sir Tim Lawrence. And the Air Force, I think, can be very proud, Bill, of what they did there.
Given a very fine display of the intricacies and the smartness required for such an occasion.
Very complex process, getting the coffin out, down that ramp,
Yes,
slow march.
we had a very good view there of the intricacies of it, that coming down the possibly slippery slope of the ramp with the warrant officer holding the coffin back to make sure it didn't come forward, and then going from the shoulder to the carry to place the coffin in the hearse. All very difficult to do under the eyes of the world and the Princess Royal and the Chief of the Air Staff. Very high pressure, but done brilliantly.
Yes, it really was immaculate. Our services are very good at this sort of ceremonial, aren't they?
That's right.
And now the funeral cortege is on its way to Buckingham Palace and will be coming through the outskirts of northwest London. We think about half an hour. Is that right, Chris?
Yeah, that's the kind of journey time we're expecting. RAF Northolt is just off the A40, one of the main roads out of London, heading out to the northwest of London. And that slow journey will take place over the next 30 minutes or so. And we've seen a lot of images in Scotland of people lining the streets. We will see what happens here in the capital.
And the State hearse with lights in there, so anyone who is maybe standing along the route will be able to get a very good view of the coffin with the different standard that was changed during the flight.
Yes, we mentioned, didn't we, in flight that the Royal Standard in Scotland was removed and the Royal Standard placed on top of the coffin with that same wreath of flowers. And there's a very important job as well for the Metropolitan Police now, who have to ensure the roads from the A40 to the centre of London, where we are here and where there are crowds waiting in the rain. In fact, many more people than there were just a few moments ago waiting for the arrival of the coffin. But it's I'll repeat what I told you just a short while ago, Mary, that we now know that the King and Queen Consort, along with the Queen, the Queen's children and grandchildren, will be there at Buckingham Palace to receive the coffin when it does finally get here.
And the coffin will lie at rest, as it still will be called, not in state yet, but at rest, in that room we were discussing, the bow room, which is the room which some people might be familiar with, beautiful bowed glass doors onto the gardens of Buckingham Palace.
Onto the gardens of Buckingham Palace, exactly so. For that journey tomorrow, and as the RAF Guard of Honour return to the airbase, they've done their job.
They've done her proud, haven't they, Bill?
That's right. This is their home also, so not far to go to relax.
Maybe drink a toast in the barracks, who knows. Rebecca Barry is there for us now. Rebecca, what have you been seeing where you were standing?
Well, it is grey, wet and bleak here in West London, and you can't help feeling the symbolism of that. We've witnessed many poignant moments over the last few days, and this evening we witnessed another as we watched the lights of that huge aircraft appearing through the grey skies here. It was silent except for the deep rumbling of the powerful engines, and it made you physically and emotionally shudder. Actually, the Royal Air Force is well used to putting on dramatic military missions, but I think for the members of the RAF involved in this task, surely it will stand out the moment they helped give a dignified final journey home to their former Commander-in-Chief. We watched as the coffin was met by that Guard of Honour by an RAF squadron. They gave a royal salute. It was simple, it was subdued, and it was sombre, and I can't help reflect on the history of this site at RAF Northolt, the oldest RAF base. It played a key role in the Battle of Britain, and now it's played a part in another moment in history as Queen Elizabeth II returns to the capital for the very last time.
Rebecca, thank you. And we're now joined by broadcaster Jonathan Dimbleby. And your thoughts, Jonathan, on what you're seeing on what is yet another remarkable historic day?
It is an historic day. It's a very sad day when you watch the long journey that the late Queen has taken. So touching to have seen the Princess Royal alone there all the time with her, 24 hours I think she said it was, via of course Edinburgh, St Giles Cathedral, and those scenes walking up behind the coffin of the family. Very powerful emotions aroused, I think, by them, that experience for them and more broadly. At the same time today, the King has been in Northern Ireland on a very important journey. There is the hearse taking the late Queen's coffin down towards the centre of London.
And the first sound of the crowds responding.
You'll see this.
I think ordinarily, Mary, looking at those pictures of the A40 there, we would be saying that that's because of the congestion leaving London. I think in this case, this is people wanting, even despite the rain, to watch the coffin go past in the hearse. But
I think
once again, a reminder of the phenomenal job that the bearer party from the RAF did just a few moments ago on landing at RAF Northolt.
Yes.
such a skilled and difficult task the bearer party has. You watch almost with your heart in your mouth on their side for everyone's sake, that no one stumbles, that the coffin does go safely in. You can have as many rehearsals as you like, but you can't prejudge a stumble.
And look at that
Down the A40.
aerial shot going in on the A40. Anyone who's come into London will know that road quite well, and cars stopped along the route, pulled over to one side. People are getting out and standing just to honour the Queen.
And wonderfully organised by the Metropolitan Police, that they will hold up the traffic for the minimum amount of time necessary in a functioning democracy, but will always get it so that you see these outriding bikes rushing by, taking up the next position at a crossroads, and then once the cortege is through, going back onto the next place, so that it doesn't make people feel, why is my life being forced to come to a stop, as opposed to saying, I want to stop.
Yes.
And that's the journey. We look along there, that's the A40, normally jammed with traffic, but not very many people. And it has to be a measure. I've just been watching here, this silent crowd building here, waiting. It's a very powerful sense. It's overwhelmingly powerful, this sense of loss that people have for Her late Majesty. And
they want to be there, don't they?
Everyone wants to be there because they're part of it. It's theirs as well. And you look at that and you cannot but be touched. I felt it when she was coming all the way from Balmoral down to Edinburgh, that long, long journey. There's something about the journey, yes, the movement, the steady movement. She's getting closer and closer to the very final part of her journey when she will come here to where we are at Buckingham Palace. And it's...
You can see people, Jonathan, they're just leaving their cars on the other carriageway in order to walk across the road, maybe catch an image of it as it makes its way down the A40.
In
like
miserable rain,
well, like we saw in Scotland the other day in beautiful sunshine, yes, on that journey from Balmoral to Edinburgh. We're here, entirely different weather, but very similar scenes.
The new king talked in his first speech about his darling mama embarking on her last great journey.
That's, I think, you can't say it too often, the demands made on the new king as he's gone on his tour, Scotland, Northern Ireland, back from Northern Ireland here, he will go to Cardiff on Friday, and he'll welcome his mother. These are formal duties that he does in public repeatedly. He keeps hearing people offering their condolences in public, crowds offering their condolences. He is in many ways a private person, very private person who lives a public life. And I think the grief that we see etched on his face allows us to know the real person as well as the king who is performing so brilliantly in his role.
And we are told, Mary, that the state hearse, which is being used right now to carry the coffin of the late Queen from RAF Northolt to Buckingham Palace, has been designed by the royal household and Jaguar Land Rover, and the Queen herself was consulted on the plans. And I'm reminded there of what happened with Prince
Duke of
Philip
Edinburgh, yeah.
when we had that Land Rover that was specially designed for this reason as well. It is finished in royal claret, the same colour as the official royal and state vehicles, which are kept in the Royal Mews at Buckingham Palace and used by members of the royal family on official duties. That's the colour of that state hearse that you're seeing there.
And is that therefore the first time that we've seen that state hearse?
Yes. So this is a hearse which Her Majesty the Queen had some say in the design, and it features the Queen's personal royal cipher as well.
It is extraordinary, isn't it? Look at the people who have stopped along the side of what is a fast road. It's a 3-lane fast road, this normally.
Absolutely, Mary. And actually, one of the reasons why the Queen had a hand in the design of this hearse was so that she could be seen in death as she was in life. The state hearse, we're told, was designed to allow members of the public to have a clear view of Her Majesty's coffin as it travelled through London and Windsor.
It is an astonishing thought that in life we knew that she chose colours so that she was seen. I have to be seen, otherwise they won't know who I am.
Seen to be believed, she once said, didn't she?
Seen to be believed.
And in death.
And she was. And then to be part of a process where you choreograph your own departure is something that beggars belief that she can calmly do and say, yes, we'll do this, we'll do that, yes. Looking at all the designs, looking at how it should be done, and in her mind's eye must have had a sense of what these scenes would look like for the watching world.
Well, it is a remarkable sight, isn't it? And we did have to see her, didn't we?
Well, it's a new
throughout
vehicle.
her reign.
It's a new vehicle, and you can just see in the top of the screen there the lights which are lighting up the coffin. Therefore, of course, she was not to know the precise time or date of her departure, but were it to be a bit dusky like it is now, here we have a hearse that the Queen helped design, which has lights inside, so that those people who have amassed on the side of that busy road out of London, and look at the other carriageway where cars have stopped and doors are open. This was about being seen in death as she was in life.
When you look at the people who have gathered along these not usually overcrowded rows with people, just imagine what it's going to be like in the next day or two when she gets to the heart of this city. It's going to be phenomenally filled with people, all wishing to be
even
there.
in the last few minutes, people have been pouring
There are
down
police.
the Mall and are assembling outside the palace.
There's
quite a lot
police.
of comings and goings of
There's a
police
bit of movement
bikes and
behind us at the moment.
There is
but we
this-
know
there
that
is-
members of the royal family are coming here, so therefore
This is
it's
clearly
the Queen's consort who is arriving right now, and they are all assembling, as you say, at the palace to receive the Queen's coffin.
But look at that continuous line at the bottom of the screen there, the continuous line of people on that part of this main road into London. As Jonathan was saying, they won't want it closed for long, and I've been in convoys of members of the royal family abroad where not our royal family, but whoever's hosting them has decided to shut off an entire motorway. But this is all about a rolling road block so that people are inconvenienced for the shortest time as possible.
I've seen half an entire capital city in Mexico shut down when the then Prince of Wales was travelling from his hotel to the mayoral centre of the city. We're very And in fact, I think in the United States, it's shut down much, much more. I think this sensitivity is one of the attractive things about the way in which the institution functions.
To
people's lives.
Yeah.
And I wondered, look, there's a van just with this door open and the top of the screen there. There's, you know, a constant line of people. I suppose I did wonder whether or not we would have a repetition of the scenes in Scotland. That was a Sunday. It was a beautiful weather. We have our answer right before our eyes, right there. That yes, this is. People do want to see it. They will stop their cars. They will. I hope that's not an accident on the top of the screen there. It looks like that car's very close to the one in front. But just on that. She passes underneath and on that flyover there as they go along the A40. Everything is stopped, everything is still.
One has to feel for the brand new commissioner of the Met Police who started his job only a few days ago, and this is quite some way to begin your first week at work, isn't it?
He will want it to work, you can be sure.
And he has pledged his oath of allegiance to the new king, but clearly his first duty in charge of the Metropolitan Police is to the late Queen.
It has been endlessly, discreetly rehearsed, so it should be okay.
It should be a well-oiled machine. Well, everything so far has gone very smoothly, at least as far as one can tell. And what we were talking about earlier, Jonathan, is this extraordinary organisation where there have been different aspects all happening.
Well, today was truly remarkable because you have this procession, this cortege, and in Northern Ireland you had a really remarkable day in constitutional and personal terms. You had the King being greeted at Belfast Airport by the Lord Mayor, Tina Black, who is a member of Sinn Féin. She then has the condolences given to her from...
Look at that, what a sight.
It is quite a dramatic sight. Condolences from Alex Maskey, the Speaker of the suspended Stormont. So two leading Sinn Féin figures welcoming the head of the institution of the monarchy, which they don't want. It's one of the great astonishing facts of personal, for him, personal and also political and public life.
These pictures are astonishing, aren't they?
Well, look on the central reservation there, right in the centre of the screen. People have just stopped their car, no matter where they were going or what they were doing. They know that they're witnessing something historic. But on both sides of the screen, on the right of the screen, a number of people standing there as the light fades.
There's something particularly potent about it because we're in near darkness. So it is the lights that let us see rather than the dreariness of streets. We see the
waving,
heart of it.
To the crowd.
Did you hear the crowds there? And it went past one of those electronic billboards with the Queen's face.
I saw that very thing, yes, those electronic billboards where we've seen them in many parts of the country. I saw some on the underground today, just with the Queen's portrait and the dates of her birth and of her death.
Crowds have been very different, I've thought. Some are very, very quiet. They don't say anything. Others have been much more needing to express their emotion by whatever way they can, maybe a sort of cheer or a clapping, whatever it might be. It's very diverse responses.
I do have a theory about this, in that where everyone films everything these days, it's very difficult to clap and hold a phone at the same time, and that's why I think a lot of the time you don't hear as much clapping because everyone has a phone in their hand.
It's not conventional to clap a funeral cortege. Heads bowed in silence is what you would expect.
But we saw a bit of it in Edinburgh.
Yes, yes, we did.
We saw it with the
and there were roars in Belfast today, but then that was a significantly unionist crowd welcoming the King, who they cherish as head of the institution.
And there we are, another picture of the late Queen on the billboard there. And every bus stop, every sign in London has been like that. And throughout the rest of the country too, I dare say. And here we can see how the police have stopped the traffic. And as you say, Jonathan, so rightly, it's the lights that are so dramatic, aren't they?
It makes it a set, doesn't it? A dramatic set.
Well, as the state hearse makes its way along the A40 and coming into London, and Chris Choi is a little bit further along the route with some guests. Chris.
Yes, Mary, Marble Arch. It's particularly fitting that the coffin should pass this spot. We're probably less than a mile away from where the Queen was actually born. There are pictures showing her on her coronation day here at Marble Arch, and what is happening here tonight is history, and so many people want to be part of that history. They have been lining the streets here 2, 3, 4 deep for hours in the rain, stretching back as far as the eye can see. There are even people actually up above me on the Marble Arch, and on the other side of the road people have climbed onto the scaffolding of neighbouring buildings that are undergoing construction work. Let's talk to some of the people who are here. Louise, thank you for joining us. And what's your reason for being here today?
Mainly because of Freddie. He's 9 months old, and I just wanted to be able to tell him when he's older that he was a part of this history, because it's going to be such a big moment and he's going to learn about it in school. I wanted to be able to say to him, you were there.
And the Queen has already been a very important part of your life and your family's history.
Yeah, she has. So my uncle served in the army for many years. He's now retired. So she's been a massive part of our lives, the Queen.
And earlier, like others that arrived hours earlier, you actually saw the new King driving by as well.
Yeah, so there was a very weird feeling, happy but also a sad feeling at the same time, because he's obviously just lost his mum. So
time and again, Mary, we're hearing this blend of feelings, the sadness and also the welcoming of the new King. As you can see, it's quite dark now, but it's only adding to the atmosphere, which I would describe as dignified, sorrowful, and now people just waiting for history literally to roll by in front of them.
Chris Choi, thank you. And if you're just joining us, what we're looking at is shots from the helicopter, from the aerial camera we have of the Queen's cortege just coming into the outskirts of London. The coffin was delivered to RAF Northolt about half an hour ago, and it is now in convoy, followed the car behind with Princess Anne, the Princess Royal, and her husband, Vice Admiral Sir Tim Lawrence. And they're coming along the A40, and you can see people lining the route. You can see cars stopped on the opposite carriageway. The police outriders, the headlights, the tail lights of the cars, as we await the arrival of the Queen. Let's just have a look at those pictures. And there we have the state hearse. Jonathan Dimbleby's with me, and our royal editor Chris Shipp, through the driving rain. But people want to be there, clearly. They've come out to bid her farewell.
In very large numbers. It's impossible to forget the extent to which she was part of people's lives, whether they knew her well, whether they'd seen her, whether they hardly knew her, whether they heard about her from their mother or from their father. She's been so much part of life, and also that really important figure of stability in very, very uncertain times, and that she's had a particularly important role recently in that process, notably, of course, during COVID. How many people here are remembering those who themselves and their families have died in COVID when perhaps they couldn't see their own mothers, who remember her after the death of her husband sitting alone in the chapel in Windsor, that poignant scene. And I think there's a huge personal feeling towards her as a woman who worked quite extraordinarily hard, great diligence, enormous decency, talent, humour, and she's very important to people, as we've seen. I mean, those people don't stand in the rain if they don't feel that it's very important to do it. They might watch it on the television, but they're standing in the rain. Here, I don't know how many thousands of people are standing out here, but an awful lot. Quite a lot of activity going along with police outriders and blue lights going on. I don't know what that is, but I think it may be the family arriving to be here in time to greet the hearse, which is now on its way somewhere nearby, on its way down to Park Lane.
Do you think, in a sense, we all identified with the Queen? We didn't know her, clearly, but to us she represented our grannies, our mothers, and I think a lot of people may be feeling a grief that they hadn't necessarily expected.
We've heard quite a lot of people saying, I didn't know that I would feel like this.
Exactly.
And a moment of grief wells up, then it goes away again, and then they can celebrate the arrival of the king and find that they want to welcome the king warmly, and then they're back to grief again. But that roller coaster is what grief is like. People do go through these intense moments of pain, and then they get their life back in order again for a while. And that's why I say, imagine what it's like for the family who know that they're going to welcome that coffin soon.
Again, I think it still surprises us that people cheer or clap, or they just want to show their appreciation, I suppose. We've even seen some flowers being thrown in front of the hearse that happened in Scotland as well as here. But look at how deep those crowds are, just at the top of the screen there. Just quite remarkable.
The society has evolved from when she inherited from her father. Total silence when her father lay in state, for instance, and also before that, and at the funeral. Likewise, when the next huge funeral of Winston Churchill, I remember being there watching.
And your father?
Total silence.
Your father was the man
my
who
father
had that
was
all
the
together,
was the
wasn't he?
commentary, and I stood with others in a long queue. Total silence. We live in different times. We've moved on, and the mobile phone makes it different. People communicate more swiftly, and attitudes haven't changed in the sense of people's feelings, I think, but the way in which they express them, we're much more open. It happened, of course, after the death of the Princess of Wales. There was a huge outpouring which confused and muddled lots of people, not excluding people like me. But this generation, this age is different, and therefore you do get the clapping, because it's a way of saying, I care for you. Yes. I care for you. I care for your memory. I know you're going, and I don't want you to go, but I really want you to know I loved you.
But, of course, she was a 96-year-old. It wasn't unexpected, even though it was a shock. It wasn't a tragedy in the sense that it was untimely, but it is still very sad. Chris?
Yes, and actually here at Buckingham Palace we have had confirmation that the Duke and Duchess of Sussex are here. We speculated earlier because we were told the Queen's grandchildren would be here to receive the coffin. So Harry and Meghan are here. We're also told that the Prince and Princess of Wales, as we now call William and Kate, are here as well, along with the Queen Consort and King. We saw them arrive earlier, didn't we, after their day in Northern Ireland. So many members of the family are waiting to receive the Queen's coffin here at Buckingham Palace. A difficult moment on so many levels, but principally the focus, of course, will be on their mother and their grandmother, who they have lost.
Amy Lewis is with the crowds just outside Buckingham Palace, awaiting the Queen's arrival, and she has seen some of those other royals arriving. What can you see there, Amy?
Yes, Mary, I'm right at the front gate to Buckingham Palace. As you say, it's right here at the foot. In the last few minutes, we have seen the Prince and Princess of Wales heading in, William and Catherine. So that was in the last few minutes. In the last hour or so, we saw the King Charles heading in. We've seen Camilla heading in, and also we saw Harry and Meghan, and alongside of that, one of the Queen's granddaughters, Princess Beatrice. So plenty of royals heading in here. They, of course, will be waiting inside to greet the Queen's coffin when it does arrive here. Now, we are only 14 miles away from Northolt's, the airbase where she was landing, so it shouldn't be long until they're here. There are thousands of people here who have been waiting now, for some of them hours, to see that first glimpse of the Queen's coffin when it does arrive here, as the Queen makes her final journey here to Buckingham Palace. As you can imagine, people here with the front row of history, they are keen to actually get that first glimpse. No one's exactly sure which entrance she will be going through. Many here hoping that it is here where the other senior royals have been heading in. The family just beside me have been waiting now for 4 hours in the pouring rain. It hasn't deterred people. Overnight, the Queen will be waiting here in the bow room. It's a room that's not normally seen by members of the public. It actually looks out over the 39-acre estate. It shouldn't be long until they're here, but people waiting patiently but have already been treated to the sight of many royals heading into the palace.
Amy Lewis outside the gates of Buckingham Palace, just behind me. Thank you for the moment. And we can see the cortege coming in. It's crossing over the Edgware Road, I believe. We've just seen it come over Wood Lane, which is out in the west of London. It's on the flyover now, the A40 flyover, for anyone who's familiar with this bit of London, and it'll be passing over Notting Hill and all of that. So we are now getting much closer to the centre of London.
I suspect it's a bit late if anyone does want to run out of their house to witness this with their own eyes, but the route that they will take from here is the A40 and then Eastbourne Terrace and then into Lancaster Gate, Bayswater Road, Marble Arch, Park Lane, down to Hyde Park Corner, and then the very final part of that journey is Constitution Hill and then into the centre gate and centre arch of Buckingham Palace.
And it is the route that we saw the new King take just a few days ago. And he, of course, is now waiting in Buckingham Palace for the arrival of his mother.
And Mary, I'm struck once again looking down on the state hearse, this new state hearse that we have been hearing about from Royal Age just in the last few moments, about the Queen having a hand in its design and how prominent those lights now are as the day turns to night here in central London on this September evening. The Queen wanted to be seen in death, just as she did in life.
It's I hope not an irreverent thought, but that had you wished to get it at its most effective, that hearse, you would travel by night, because there's darkness all around and it's lit up with the Royal Standard covering the coffin, and it's a particularly powerful vision.
I suppose that was entirely planned.
Well,
do you not
well,
think?
the timings were all planned. Obviously, we didn't know what time of the year it would happen, clearly, and nor did anyone. But the timings were all going to be thus if the death were to happen in Scotland, which is
which of course we didn't know where that would happen, so that changed the plans. Well, everything moved forward a day.
But it has all worked absolutely like clockwork so far.
Coming off the A40 now, and this is where it will, I'm presuming it will make a right turn imminently, go under the flyover towards Paddington and then make its way towards the centre of London.
And there we are, look, people out of their cars again, leaning over the side of the flyover as they can see the Queen's cortege passing by beneath. And there they are, as you said, Chris, turning right.
Of course, there were flyovers that probably weren't even built when the Queen took to the throne in 1952. Not many motorways in the country then, but clearly the A40 is a key artery in and out of London now.
Oh, nice. Lots of people. And that very modern image of all the the mobile phones with their lights, everybody filming, everyone taking photographs. As you said, Jonathan, it's a sign of the times. Times have changed.
I do wonder whether you slightly miss the experience if you're focusing on getting the image rather than just experiencing it for yourself.
Now we're showing our age.
I think that's probably so, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's an invalid point.
Absolutely, I agree with you 100%.
With the lying at rest in St Giles Cathedral in Edinburgh, people were specifically asked to put their phones down when they went into the cathedral so that they were experiencing the moment rather than recording it.
And that is going to be the same at Westminster Hall, as I understand it.
We will get more details, actually. I think later tonight we'll get more details about the lying in state and the queues and where those queues will go. But yes, it's likely to be the case that they won't want people just, you know, dare I say it, Instagramming it as they go through. It's about experiencing the moment and saying goodbye and paying respects, not about recording it.
It is an interesting point, though, that you make, Jonathan, which is it is a generational thing, isn't it? The idea, you were saying, with her father's funeral, everyone stood in entire silence and heads bowed and so on, and now people want proof that they were there.
At her father's, most people, men were wearing bowler hats, which they took off, and women would quite easily understand have curtsied. And it is very different. But what I've noticed all the way through these last few days here, Buckingham Palace and elsewhere, is the wide range of people. It's the young as well as the older. I can't see through there coming round. Is that coming round towards Marble Arch?
Towards Marble Arch, yes, indeed.
Probably about to hit the top of Hyde Park here any point now.
Oh, they're coming
Bayswater
up
Road.
Bayswater Road, OK. And the police outriders, as you see, going ahead to clear the way, to stop any traffic, but people lining the route every step of the way, and they're slowing right down here.
Yeah, they're waiting for the road ahead to be cleared by those motorcycle outriders before they push through. But I think as the camera will no doubt move in now, you can see just how many people are there. And actually at the bottom of the screen, people wanting to get around the bus, moving forward to try to see that moment. This looks like the top of Hyde Park now.
Quite a good view from the top floor of that bus, wouldn't you?
Not perhaps the view you're expecting on your way home from work.
Okay, great. Sky is still on you, Rob.
And just as we enjoyed those beautiful pictures of Edinburgh over the last couple of days, I think we're seeing, all right, London in the rain, but it does look very beautiful. The lights reflecting in the wet streets and the London buses and the taxis, and we're just coming along to Marble Arch.
It's a very different scene to the one we saw through Aberdeenshire and Royal Deeside just a couple of days ago, but just as moving, I think, to see that many people who have instinctively decided to leave their whatever they were up to this evening
warm and dry,
But it somehow
stand out in the rain.
it acquires a slightly great, if you think of the departure from Balmoral and going to Edinburgh. It acquires a slightly more and more formality as you get into London, because you associate London so much with ceremony and the Queen coming and going in the past, where she will soon be coming into this palace. How many times have we witnessed over all the years her coming in and out of that palace? This time coming into the palace very soon for what will be the last time.
And I just to pick up on what you were saying about the increasing formality, and we're told, aren't we, that her coffin was carried out of Balmoral by gamekeepers,
Yes.
wearing their tweeds,
Yes.
and doing their duty, but without the formality that it is increasing as she gets closer to the capital.
From the home she loved so much to what was her principal official residence in the capital.
The headquarters of the monarchy, if you like, and here we are.
Must be coming into Marble Arch shortly, and it's just, what, 3 minutes to 8 o'clock now. It's almost completely dark here in London. Buckingham Palace is bathed in a soft golden glow, I would say. It was lit up with lights, with the King's Royal Standard flying on top.
And the rain has stopped. Most of the umbrellas have come down.
Not at half-mast, of course, because he is the king and he is officially in residence. It will be...
And even as the Queen arrives in London, we saw in that close-up shot the wreath on her coffin. She carries something of Balmoral with her, because they're all the flowers that were picked in the royal estate.
It is the second wreath that's been put on top of the coffin, yes, but that has been on there since she left the palace in Holyrood House in Edinburgh yesterday afternoon.
All her favourite flowers, some rosemary, some phlox in there. Sweet peas we had the day before, didn't we?
White sweet peas.
Yes. All of her favourites, and the new king had sweet peas in a small vase beside him on the desk, didn't he, when he made his first speech?
He has inherited that love of white flowers. In his residence there are always white flowers.
And you're coming down Park Lane.
Past all those high-end hotels on Park Lane. Taxi drivers look stopped there, everyone out of their cars, and
Past the Dorchester Hotel, I think, is it there?
Shortly down to Speaker's Corner, I think,
And that magnificent Wellington Arch,
Yes.
and the residence, which has the address, which I always think is rather wonderful. Number 1 London.
Number 1 London, which is the residence of the Duke of Wellington, and is right in the centre of London.
Of course, once it gets to Wellington Arch, there's only a short journey then down Constitution Hill, and we will see, and the crowds here will see, the state hearse arrive in front of Buckingham Palace.
And judging by how still and quiet the people are here, it will be interesting to see how they respond, and I suspect there will be a range of responses. Some will still stay silent, others will want to make their feelings publicly known.
And if you're joining us just now, we're looking at aerial shots of the Queen's cortege arriving in London. She landed at RAF Northolt about 40 minutes ago. She's now just a couple of minutes away from coming home to Buckingham Palace, where her family are awaiting her. She's going down Park Lane, shortly to go around Hyde Park Corner with the magnificent Wellington Monument, the arch that we're all so familiar with, and then down Constitution Hill, where she will be, well, greeted by enormous crowds here, silent, sombre, waiting to see their Queen one last time.
And her family inside, knowing exactly what is happening and being told what is going on, so that they're ready for when her body is brought in.
And we are at Canada Gate, just opposite Buckingham Palace. Huge crowds, all of them waiting for the arrival of the cortege. And there is just the quietest ripple through the crowd as the police outriders arrive. And there we saw the late Queen Elizabeth returning home to Buckingham Palace. Crowds welcoming her, cheering, 3 cheers, clapping, filming, taking photographs. The police outriders stopped once they had delivered her, their heads bowed, and the people entirely silent until they saw their Queen returning home. How many thousands of times has she been driven through those gates during her 70 years reign? And she has come home.
I remember the image at the coronation of the golden coronation coach coming out through that main gate as she went down with cheering crowds welcoming her as the new young 26-year-old, it was 1953, 26-year-old Queen. And now, 70 years on from when she became Queen, back in again for the last time before her coffin in what will be an immensely powerful journey as well before the lying estate, going back down here to Westminster Hall, where she will be placed on the catafalque where her coffin will lie in state, guarded for 4 days.
And inside the palace now, her family, led by the King, have been preparing to meet her. And Princess Anne, the Princess Royal, brought her mother home, escorted her all the way.
He brought her the whole way home and issued that statement earlier saying just to my mother, the Queen, thank you. But the state hearse that we've been hearing so much about is driven through the centre gate and through the centre arch. It's important to point out that what's happening inside the quadrangle now is a moment for the family. That's looking away from Buckingham Palace and up the Mall.
With all the Union flags there.
That's right, they allowed those people to come down just to the edge of the Queen Victoria Memorial a short while ago so they could witness the hearse go round the memorial. And what struck me, I think, Mary, as I think it did you as well, was seeing all those police outriders with their heads bowed as the state hearse went past them and went through the centre gate, her gate, and through the centre arch and into the quadrangle of Buckingham Palace. And beyond that, it's all about the family. It's all about them having a private moment.
Some private time, some down time, some reflective time, probably comparing their experiences of what it was like and talking about her, talking about the day ahead, the days ahead, wondering what it will be like. You always remember they are a family as well as the institution that is the royal family.
It seems that so many days have passed since we got the news of her death, but there are plenty of days to go until the funeral, which is on Monday. It's almost a full week away, and the people are going to be lining up now because they will want to get ready to pay their respects in the Great Hall when she's actually lying in state there tomorrow.
We've had a taste of it here tonight in the dark and in the rain, but tomorrow there will be more remarkable scenes on the Mall as members of the royal family, including the King, will process behind the coffin as it walks right up there as he will walk behind the coffin as it is taken up the Mall towards Horse Guards and on its way to Westminster Hall for this lying in state. And we can only predict what the scenes are going to be like for that lying in state, but I mean, everyone at the moment is talking about crowds 24 hours a day. They will announce the route of the queue very shortly. It's so many people are going to be here, they think, not only to witness that but also for the coffin as well.
Let's take the opportunity to have a look at those pictures again of the cortege arriving, the police outriders, the lights within the state hearse illuminating the coffin with that magnificent standard. Cheers of the crowd. The cheers as that hearse passes round, giving everyone a chance to see. Look at all the mobile phones, look at all the lights, they're like stars in the sky, like Christmas lights. And the cheers and the clapping of the crowd. And in a moment we will see the police outriders waiting for her with their heads bowed. All of it, speaking for myself, I find it very moving. It slows right down at the final moment of going through the gate. And you see the helmeted policeman, heads bowed.
The flowers that were originally put there now accumulating in huge mounds in Green Park, not far away, to clear the gates.
I'm struck, Mary, by the warm lights glowing in the quadrangle there, where her family are waiting for her. And another bearer party will by now have lifted the coffin from the state hearse and taken it through the grand entrance and in to the old part of the house. This is this is Buckingham House as it once was when it was first built, at the very back of the building.
So many presidents, so many leaders have come through here, so many figures through the years, famous world figures. This must be the saddest journey of all.
We're so used, aren't we, to seeing Buckingham Palace as the focus of celebration, jubilees or royal weddings, and it is different.
It's a reminder of what the palace looked like one June evening on that Saturday when it was bathed in laser lights and you know, there were drones in the sky, if you remember, and
in the shape of a handbag.
In the shape of a handbag, which had been much talked about with Paddington Bear only a few moments before. And a lot of people have been sending me pictures where people have been leaving flowers. Some people have been leaving sandwiches in a little bag, marmalade sandwiches presumably. And one of them I saw earlier said, "For later."
Oh, that's very touching, isn't it? Little Paddington toys and so on. And there was something for everyone in that Jubilee celebration.
There certainly was. And she on the balcony, as for so many times from the very start of her reign, aging over those 70 years, but always dignified, always smiling.
Yeah, that final view we got of her dressed in bright green with her closest family around her. I think we can go back to Amy Lewis, who's in the crowds. Amy.
Yes, Mary, we obviously saw the Queen's coffin travel up Constitution Hill. There was a huge cheer and clapping here from the crowd, and then as she disappeared momentarily to travel up the Mall, everyone rushed across, and then outside the front gates behind me of Buckingham Palace waited as the Queen travelled through those gates for one final time here at Buckingham Palace, again to the sound of cheers and clapping. Now, people here, well-wishers, have been waiting hours to see a glimpse of that coffin, not deterred by the pouring rain that we've had here for the past few hours. Among those who have been waiting are the Hill family from Leicester. Guys, you've been waiting here for hours. Why was it important for you to come?
Well, for me particularly, I felt I had to come and lay some flowers in reflection. I'd met the Queen personally, and that was a wonderful occasion. She was so lovely.
What did you think when you saw the Queen's coffin going through those gates for a final time?
I thought that she was an amazing queen and she's reigned for so long.
And to be here today, how have you found, I suppose, the atmosphere here? It's been incredibly sombre, hasn't it? But there are huge crowds.
It is huge crowds. It's incredible to think that everybody wants to come and pay their last respects. It's beautiful.
And clearly for you, you finished school early, you've travelled all the way down from Leicester. This is something you will be talking about presumably forever.
Yeah.
You'll be able to tell your own grandchildren, won't you?
Yeah, and my children.
And it's not just the Queen's coffin. I've stood next to you for, hours now it seems.
Yeah.
And it's been huge members of the royal family that you've seen come through. Tell us just a bit about what the history, I suppose, that you've seen today.
Well, we're going back a long time, aren't we? I mean, it's wonderful. We've seen the King. That's just incredible. And Camilla. And we've seen the...
Diana.
No, and Beatrice, and it's been an amazing experience to be here. I wouldn't have missed it. Although we've been standing here all these hours in the rain, I wouldn't have missed it.
I'm just going to kind of show you around a bit. As you can see, even though the Queen's coffin has actually gone in, there are still thousands of people here. We just touched upon earlier on, just before, of course, we saw the Queen's coffin passing through those gates. We did see the King. We also saw Camilla, Harry, Meghan. We saw the Prince and Princess of Wales, or William and Catherine. And the Queen's granddaughter, Beatrice, passing in. They are now inside. We are hearing there'll be prayers inside. And then this evening, the Queen's coffin will be placed in the bow room, a bow room that's not normally seen by the public, but it does here at Buckingham Palace overlook the 39-acre estate. So that's where the Queen will be spending the evening. And, of course, members of the royal household can go in and pay their respects. So it will be the Queen's final night here at Buckingham Palace before tomorrow she leaves here and makes her way to Westminster Hall, where she will lie in state for 4 days. If you look around at the crowds now here, still there are lots and lots of people milling around, but as we pass up tomorrow, she passes up the Mall, there will be thousands queuing to see her coffin as she lies in state. So if you think we've seen huge crowds here today, you can only imagine what it will be like over the coming days.
Yes, indeed. Amy Lewis in amongst the crowds outside Buckingham Palace, just behind me, somewhere in the crowd there. Thank you for the moment. And let's go straight over to Chris Choi, who's at Marble Arch. Chris.
Yes, Mary, the crowds here have drifted away. There was a real perceptible change of atmosphere as the State hearse passed this location. First of all, the sights of those blue flashing lights of the police outriders, then a hush, followed by applause as the Princess Royal's vehicle passed by. Some members of the crowd are still with us. Joshua, what memories has that left you with?
I feel that it's left me with lasting memories. I feel like it was really important for me to be here on this historic occasion. The Queen Elizabeth II has been on the throne for 70 years, given 70 years of good service to our country, and I feel like it was important to be here to pay our respects, to line the streets, and to show our thanks for that.
And what emotions were going through your thoughts as that unfolded?
It was mixed emotions. I mean, I feel like I was there to honour Queen Elizabeth and what she has done for our country, our nation and the world, but also it was sad. We're at the changing point in history, and I think it was a really bittersweet, momentous occasion, and it was a turning point in history, and I'm glad I was here for it.
Turning point, and you were here to see it. Emma, what did you think?
Yeah, I think that we just feel very privileged that we were able to come down into central London, pay our respects, be here, see Princess Anne. It was a really special moment, and I think we just feel very fortunate that we were able to come down and line the streets and be here for it.
It was a very clear mix of emotions, wasn't it? First of all, the silence as the hearse passed by, and then applause,